In the ancient days of Israel, during the time when judges ruled the land, the world was uncertain and often troubled. People struggled to survive, and the nation frequently faced hardship. One such hardship came in the form of a severe famine that struck the land of Bethlehem. The fields became dry and empty, crops failed, and families struggled to find food. Among the people living in Bethlehem was a man named Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their 2 sons. Desperate to protect his family from starvation, Elimelech made a difficult decision. He chose to leave his homeland and travel east to the land of Moab, a foreign country with different customs and beliefs. He hoped that there they might find food and a chance to survive. So the family packed their belongings and left Bethlehem behind. What began as a journey for survival would soon become a story of faith, loyalty, and redemption that would echo through history. When Naomi and her family arrived in Moab, life seemed to improve for a time, but their peace did not last long. Soon, tragedy struck the family. Elimelech died, leaving Naomi alone with her 2 sons in a foreign land. The burden of grief was heavy, but Naomi continued on, relying on her sons for support. Eventually, her sons married Moabite women. One married a woman named Ruth, and the other married Orpah. For nearly 10 years, the family lived together in Moab, but sorrow returned once again. Both of Naomi's sons died in a short span of time. Naomi had lost her husband and both of her children. Now she was left alone with only her 2 daughters-in-law. Grief filled her heart, and the future seemed uncertain. One day, Naomi heard news from her homeland. The famine in Bethlehem had ended. The Lord had blessed the land with food again. With nothing left to keep her in Moab, Naomi decided it was time to return home. Her daughters-in-law loved her deeply and began the journey with her, but along the road, Naomi stopped and spoke to them with compassion. She told them to return to their own families. "My daughters," she said, "go back to your mother's homes. May the Lord show you kindness and give you new husbands and new lives." Both women wept loudly. They did not want to leave Naomi alone, but Naomi insisted that it would be better for them to remain in their homeland. Finally, after many tears, Orpah kissed Naomi goodbye and returned to her people. But Ruth refused to leave. Naomi urged Ruth to return as well. "Look," Naomi said, "your sister-in-law is going back to her people and her gods. You should go with her." But Ruth answered with one of the most powerful declarations of loyalty ever. "Spoken," she said. "Do not urge me to leave you or turn back from you. Where you go, I will go. Where you stay, I will stay. Your people will be my people, and your God will be my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." These words revealed Ruth's incredible devotion. She was willing to leave her homeland, her culture, and her future behind to stay with Naomi. When Naomi realized Ruth was determined, she allowed her to come. Together, the 2 women continued their journey back to Bethlehem. When Naomi and Ruth arrived in Bethlehem, the town was buzzing with activity. It was the beginning of the barley harvest. The villagers recognized Naomi and were surprised to see her return after so many years. But Naomi felt the weight of her sorrow. She told them not to call her Naomi, which meant pleasant, but instead to call her Mara, because she believed her life had been filled with hardship. Despite Naomi's sadness, hope was quietly beginning to unfold. Wanting to provide for Naomi, Ruth volunteered to work in the fields gathering leftover grain. In those days, farmers allowed the poor to collect grain that fell behind the harvesters, so Ruth went out into the fields to gather food. By what seemed like chance, she found herself working in a field belonging to a wealthy and respected man named Boaz. Boaz soon noticed the young woman working diligently among the workers. Curious, he asked his servants about her. They told him she was the Moabite woman who had returned with Naomi and had been working tirelessly all day. Boaz was deeply moved by Ruth's loyalty and kindness toward Naomi. He approached her and spoke with compassion. He told her to remain in his fields where she would be safe. He also instructed his workers to treat her kindly and even leave extra grain behind for her to collect. Ruth was overwhelmed by this generosity. She bowed before him and thanked him sincerely. When Ruth returned home with a large amount of grain, Naomi was amazed. Naomi realized something extraordinary. Boaz was a close relative of their family. In the traditions of Israel, a relative could serve as a family redeemer, helping restore the property and future of a struggling family. Naomi began to believe that God had not forgotten them after all. Following Naomi's guidance, Ruth respectfully approached Boaz and asked him to fulfill the role of family redeemer. Boaz admired Ruth even more for her courage and integrity. However, another relative had the first legal right to redeem Naomi's land. The next morning, Boaz went to the city gate where business matters were settled. In front of the town elders, he presented the opportunity to the other relative. But the man declined, so Boaz publicly declared that he would redeem. Naomi's family and Mary Ruth, the elders and the people of Bethlehem blessed the union. Boaz and Ruth were married, and the Lord blessed them with a son. They named him Obed. The women of Bethlehem celebrated with Naomi and praised God. They said that Naomi's life had been restored. The baby Obed would grow up to become the father of Jesse, and Jesse would become the father of David. Generations later, from this same family line would come Jesus Christ, the Savior of the world. Ruth began as a foreign widow with no security and no future, yet her loyalty, faith, and courage changed everything. Her story reminds us that even in the darkest moments, God is quietly working behind the scenes. Through simple acts of love, faithfulness, and kindness, lives can be transformed, and sometimes the smallest choices lead to the greatest destinies.